Hey there everybody, this is my video on the Kwikset Smart Key. If you are interested in the whole video, great. If you aren't interested in my meandering thoughts about the Kwikset and how to pick or how to learn about it and pick it, fast forward to about the 12-minute mark. And then if you want to watch the picking and gutting, that goes about another 12 minutes. And then finally, there's going to be a reassembly at the end that I'll probably do like a fast forward of, so that hopefully it isn't too excruciating to watch. Hey everybody, this is Dennis. This is going to be my first attempt at kind of showing some stuff about a lock. Some stuff I was able to find on YouTube and stuff when I first got the lock to kind of help in figuring out how to pick it, and some stuff I found along the way. And then I'll try to do a cut and then set it up and actually pick it and gut it obviously as well. If anybody watched my multi-lock junior video, I did manage to find that last spring. We got the lock back together and working, so that's good. So I've got a Kwikset lock here, what would be a Generation 3. These are actually really easy to come by and not too expensive, at least in my part of the US. At Home Depot, this lock is like $16. I just got like the least expensive deadbolt part of the lock and just kind of took this piece out, because this is really what you need to be able to pick the lock. Now I think I've seen and heard on other things that this lock was rated by Consumer Reports as like unpickable, which obviously it's not. But the way you can kind of tell it's a Generation 3, apparently, besides all the scratches that somebody pointed out, which if you see scratches on the side there, if you watch the whole video, you'll kind of understand why they're there and why that kind of points it out as a Generation 3. I haven't picked any of the other generations, so I can't necessarily speak to how different they are, but I do know that that's kind of needed for this one. But if you go in and you try to tension the lock normally and try to pick anything, you're not going to get tension on any of the pins. The reason for that is there's a sidebar that you need to tension in order to be able to pick the lock, and without tensioning that, you'll just get that nothing will ever bind, because it doesn't work like a normal pin tumbler lock does. What I found on this actually is that, so if we take this, what I kind of refer to as the retaining spring out, or retaining clip out, it's the bigger. There's two clips back here. One is definitely a lot harder to get out, this black clip. And then there's this one, which now, having taken it apart a couple times, it's pretty easy, but with just the screwdriver, I was able to get it out. But then the core will slide out of this larger body, and you could actually pick the lock with it like this. It's a little tough once you get to having to kind of turn the core to do it this way, but you certainly could. Now with the Generation 3 Smart Key, they call it, it does come with this, which has now been heavily modified, but this little Smart Key tool. And this, when I put it back together, I'll kind of show how this is used to actually change what key will work the lock. But I made this initially in order to be able to tension the sidebar, and that's kind of what these scratches are from on the side here, is getting this tool that I made in here and to tension the lock. Now I could use this to pick the lock I haven't really been, because I actually got this a little too thin. What I did to make it, you'll find some other YouTube videos that kind of show it in one piece and have some diagrams, but basically I used a hammer to kind of completely flatten it, because it has a little bit of a like zigzag to it when you get it. And then I just used the round cutoff disc on a Dremel to just kind of cut down and then completely across to make it thin like this. I gave it a little bend, and then I just used sandpaper to kind of make it as thin as I needed to get it to kind of come in here and go right along. This is the sidebar that needs to be tensioned. So to get it in here, I just kept kind of playing with it until I got it to a point where I could get it kind of to go in and out. Now, as you can see, this is really thin at this point. It just kind of slides completely in and out without doing anything to the pins. I'm going to show you with what I kind of use now to pick it, that's really a little too thin. And while it will work for the first couple of pins, the last, it winds up not being thick enough to tension, to push on this bar to get these last two tensioned. So this is the bar that needs to be pushed against, and if this isn't pushing on it, it's not going to work. So what I wound up doing is I created this tension tool kind of in a very similar way, but this is just a Sparrow's diamond that I cut the diamond end off with just a pair of dikes, and then gave it a little bend and just got it thin enough that now you can see this one, I can get it to go in, but it does take considerably more effort to get it to go all the way in. Now, the way you can check is you can put the key in, and then it should slide in pretty easily with the key in, because that sidebar has been moved out of the way. The springs are pushing it in and allowing it to completely move out of the way, so that tensioner is easily able to get in there. So the other kind of interesting thing is you can actually see in here the pins moving. So you can kind of use this as almost a cutaway lock. I don't know how easy it is to see in there, but you can use it as almost a cutaway lock, where you can tension the sidebar, and then once you have some tension on the sidebar, come in here and pick the pins. Get that sidebar well tensioned. You'll only be able to put the tensioner in a little bit at a time, because if you put it in too far, there'll be too much tension and you won't actually get the pins to move, or the sliders really. You're using the pins that you're pushing on to move the sliders. And I don't know if you can see, but that first slider is just moving up and down there, but it's actually set now. And they're all, if we go to the next one, there might be just a little too much tension to get that guy, but you could go all the way down and kind of get them all set even. And then I would just, when I was kind of figuring out picking this lock, I would do that, put it in here to kind of tension then with the bar. And as you tension, you slide this out and the lock can open. And I'll show that more when I'm actually picking it. But that's kind of how I figured this lock out for myself. Was I watched a couple videos on making that tool, and then I just tensioned and watched those pins to get them all even where they would be with the key in. So with the key in, you can see where they lay and where that kind of inner core moves. So I just got all those pins to the same height as with the key, and then I'd put it back together and try. And it took some trial and error because it's definitely a different feel than, you know, the normal tensioning the core and then picking the pins and having the core move a little bit and then finally open it. It's more of a, you tension the sidebar, you pick all the pins, and then turn and hope that you kind of have everything set right, because it doesn't necessarily always work that way. But if we put this back together, we can see we've got our Kwikset key here, which does operate the lock, but this different Kwikset key doesn't, and neither does this Kwikset key. And the reason for that is Kwikset has this little thing here that will actually allow you to easily change what the bitting requirement is to open the lock. So you can open it. This came with a kit, so there were actually one key that came with it originally, and then the little like rekeying kit came with this tool, which is a little nicer for actually working it than the smart key, which serves the same purpose originally. But so with the rekey kit, you got this Kwikset tool and 2 other keys, which is kind of nice because then you have 3 different pinnings for the lock. But what you would do to rekey it is you would turn it just to side like this. I guess that's 90 degrees. And you would take this. I thought this would be nice to make a tool out of, but it's actually, you wouldn't be able to. This piece isn't long enough. But so you just kind of push that in and hold it in, and you pull the key out, and then you would put a different key in, release that, and turn it back. And now this key is going to operate the lock, and the other 2 won't. And so once I'm done picking it and I kind of go to disassemble it, we'll see how that whole mechanism works. But now this key works and the rest of them don't. So I'm going to go ahead and get this in the vise, and then we're going to watch picking it. Okay, so we're back. I've got the Kwikset smart key, what would be the generation 3 here in the device. Now, just to show that we do have it working, it does work with this key, and actually it doesn't work with the other keys. There would be, I believe, a way that if you disassembled the lock and had things you hadn't set it to a key after disassembling it, really it would be able to kind of work with almost any key, I believe. So just showing that it does work with one key and not the other, so it is keyed to a key. So we're going to go ahead and just tension that sidebar we saw earlier. And then come in here, get a click out of 1. And as I click the pins, I'm just going to push in more on that tension bar. And it just went all the way in real easily. It kind of like was hard to push in, then it just went all the way in. And that means that sidebar moved in enough that tensioner was able to move in along it, just like when we had the key in there and it moved in real easily all the way along it. That sidebar should be enough out of the way that we're now able to open the lock. But as you see, I'm not actually tensioning the core yet. I'm just tensioning that sidebar. So tensioning the core wouldn't do anything. Even while you're tensioning the sidebar, it's not going to bind the pin differently or anything, because this doesn't have a shear line the way a like a traditional lock does. It's actually that sidebar that's causing the core not to turn. So now we're going to tension lock, and this is always the interesting part, because sometimes you're pretty sure you have this in far enough, you're pretty sure you have everything picked, you've given it a couple goes and it doesn't turn. So hopefully as we pull this out, we'll kind of start feeling the core turn. Usually I can feel like this feels like it's set enough that it's going to turn, but we start tensioning and we pull out this tension on the sidebar, and I can feel the traditional bar starting to move a little, and so I know when I pull this out, we've got it open. All right, so let's get this out of the vise and just take a look at the rest of what's inside. I'm just going to go ahead and take that C-clip off the back, slide the core out, and I'm just going to turn it back to being in the locked position. Now in the back here, you've got this big clip. This is actually a Kwikset clip removal tool. eBay, or Amazon rather, pretty cheap. I just slide that out. Here. Just get a key here. And we can slide it right out. So you can see in here where that sidebar is riding and where this rides when you slide the tensioner in. It's actually riding right along here, and this is the part of that sidebar that we can kind of see when we slide this in. We can see that sidebar through this little window. But so we've got a couple different parts here. So we've got these little black, I believe they're plastic or some sort of nylon that holds this kind of side plate on. So I'm just going to pop that off. Now under there, we've got this really funky looking spring. It's kind of like an hourglass shape, but so that's sitting on top of the sidebar under this little plastic C-clip. Pop that other C-clip off. Let's get this little other hourglass out of the way. Okay. And now this side plate part can come off. There is a ball bearing here, and there's also a spring at the end here. I'm not going to take this end spring out because it doesn't come out very easily. But so the sidebar, we'll take the sliders out first. So one slider actually wound up hung up here. A little bit of grease still in this from the factory, but this is our one slider that would have been sitting right there. We first took it out. Just gonna pull these all out. Now this is how it manages to change the bitting. So by pushing that smart key in, we're actually moving this sideways, and then we allow these to move to a different position, or to a neutral position, and then the key pins, which we'll look at, then kind of slide into the right spot so that it's where it's meant to be. We got the sidebar here is kind of fallen off, but it goes in this way. Get the rest of these sliders out, and these sliders are they're all the same. There's no difference in the sliders. Okay, and then we do have the key pins here as well, and on top here we've got this little cover that we're just gonna take the cover off. Okay, we get this cover off, and under that cover we've got the springs and the key pins. Now I believe each one of these key pins would actually be the same as well, since really what's happening is that little tiny, if we can get this to focus, this little tiny spot on here is actually interacting with the slider. And it's just kind of going in here, and that's how we're actually setting we're setting the key position. The bitting is by it's just sliding into these different spots on the sliders. So we'll just pull the rest of these out. Okay. Like I said, all of these are the same. They all slide into these pretty smoothly, but they're not gonna be different sizes like a traditional pin driver. Okay, so we've got all those key pins out. Like I said, we've still got this ball bearing sitting here. I'd imagine that's probably for drill resistance. And so we'll just put these kind of where they belong. So we've got our drivers, our sliders, and our sidebar. I'm not gonna bore everybody too much with putting it back together. Maybe I'll try to do a sped up video of putting it back together. I don't know if anybody's interested in seeing how it goes back together. I just do everything in reverse, but that is the Kwikset Generation 3 with the sidebar, the sliders, and the key pins. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Okay, if anybody watched to this point and they watched the whole video, wow, thanks a lot. That's it's a really long video to be watching about the Kwikset Smart Key Generation 3. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great day.